Good morning, everybody, and happy Thoughtfully Fit Thursday. I am Darcy Loma, and I have a special guest today, Kerri Hummingbird, who has embarked on this powerful journey. Her story is incredible. And she has, these are my words, but she's like transformed and redefined herself, and she's become a healer. And she's fascinating. So, Kerri, I want to welcome you and thank you for joining us, and see if you can start by sharing some of your story and your journey to how you got to be your current version of yourself.
Yes. Well, I think it starts with being willing to be different and to be unique and be yourself. We live in a conformist society that has a lot of rules about how you get acceptance and love and belonging. And when I first started getting raised up, my family moved around a lot, and so I started realizing, like, how do I belong in this new community? I'm the new kid. How do I belong in this new community now? I'm the new kid. How do I belong in this community? And based on those experiences, I started creating like this book of rules about how to belong. And by the time, flash forward, I got married in my early 20s, I married somebody who equally had a lot of set of conditions about how to appear cool and how to appear, somebody that you'd want to belong with. And we started a life together based on that, right? Based on the need to belong and to appear cool. And we had a lot of fun at first. But pretty quickly into the relationship, we started getting into more serious territory, like, I don't know, having a child.
That's pretty
That,
serious.
you know, so, that kind of takes all the BS meter out of everything. Like, you start to have a child, and now things got real. And it's no longer about the image. It's no longer about what it looks like to other people. It's no longer, it's actually that amplifies, because now I'm in a group of mothers, and I'm hearing their stories and their experiences about their births, and I'm hearing, how they are raising their children. And then I'm comparing myself endlessly to these people and feeling completely inadequate. Because why? Because, all of that effort and focus placed on conforming and belonging to other people and appearing, in a way that would get me love wasn't actually what I needed. And years later, on the other side of this journey, I can look and I can say, oh, I'm a unicorn. I'm a total rainbow sheep unicorn. And yeah, I don't fit in anywhere. And I'm designed to not fit in anywhere. And embracing that and accepting that about myself has really helped me, because before I embraced that about myself, that, hey, I'm not really like a lot of other people. I'm kind of different, in the way my perspective is, and the way that I feel about things, the way I feel. I mean, just feeling by itself, having feelings, having emotions, that's just not the way the society operates. I have feelings. I've always had them. I couldn't like get rid of them or make them stop. I was always like wore my heart on my sleeve and really emotional, and feeling everything. And that landed me into some psychotherapist offices. Like, we need to help you stop that. You are not like everyone else. You are not going along with the plan. You're not supposed to feel. You're supposed to just act like you don't have any feelings whatsoever about things and just show up. And I just couldn't do it. And I was like, I must be broken. So I had this whole story of being broken for a long time. And then I was told I was crazy, because I felt like there was this thing happening. For a little while, I'll give you one example of crazy. I was starting to do my art and going into art shows and show my art, because of course I'm an artist. Of
Okay.
course. So I go into the art scene and I start trying to sell my art, and I sit in my booth. And for the first few times I go, I just sit there, and I eventually end up crying, because no one's coming in my booth and buying my art, and nobody understands me, and nobody wants me, and the whole thing. And I'm not like them. I'm not conforming. I'm different, and they don't like it. And I want to conform, and I want them to like me. And I would be sitting there, but then I'd be like, wait a second. That booth over there is tons of people going in there. I wonder what they're doing. So I walk over and look, and they're selling some ridiculous thing, like a golf ball plug thing. Like when you play golf and it's decorated and you had to put your tee someplace to mark the spot. And there are tons of people going in there buying that ridiculous thing. But I'm like, nobody's coming in my booth buying art. And I'm like, this is the weird, what is going, I started realizing there was this law of attraction thing, and I never even heard about law of attraction, but I was seeing it at the art shows. I was like, okay, what's it about that person? Oh, they move around their booth. Oh, they're constantly moving in and out of their booth. Oh, they're happy. Oh my gosh, they're happy. Oh, and I start watching the different people at different shows and see
Wow.
like how they did it. And I could see there was a system actually to people that were, and it was this invisible thing. Like, you couldn't tell who would be successful based on what product they had. It was so here I wasn't coming home and telling my then husband about it, and he's like, "You're crazy. You're absolutely crazy. That's not true. I don't know what you're talking about." I was surrounded by naysayers, okay? So that was kind of how I ended up feeling like I was a crazy person, I was broken, and so when I went to the psychotherapist's office and they said, "Here, take these pills," after the birth of my first son, I said, "You're right, I better take those pills because 'cause I'm a hot mess and nobody wants to be around me when I'm crying, so I better stop crying, I'll take those pills." And then I said, "Well, you're right, I must be crazy because I just can't be happy no matter what. I'm always trying to be better, so I'm in a growth mindset. That's weird in a fixed environment, right? So I must be broken. There must be something
Oh.
wrong with me." So then they would finally they gave me the diagnoses, right? So all of that just messes with your head, but it is a way that you find yourself. So if anybody's listening who's like, I was told to take those I was told not to cry at work. I was told it wasn't cool to, all the things I just said. Yeah, it takes a while to get comfortable with yourself and realize who you really are. And that's kind of, I'm a rainbow sheep. Hello, everybody, rainbow sheep.
I mean, it sounds like, Kerri, so you created the rules to fit in because as you're moving around to these different communities, you needed to figure out how to follow the rules so people would accept you. But it sounds like those rules didn't conform with who you are and how you tick as a person.
No, they didn't. They just sort of, because I'm a big feeler, I'm an empath. Now we have words to describe who we are. I'm an
Mhm.
empath. I feel everything. And now that we have these wonderful self-understanding tools out there on the marketplace, I personally love the one called Gene Keys, GeneKeys, for anybody who's interested in that. It's like understanding yourself based on your time and time and location of birth, right? It's like, oh my gosh, this explains it. I mean, I'm designed to tap into the collective consciousness of a space. Like, I'm designed to show up, tap into that community, figure out what they think, what they feel, they do, blend in, like sort of shapeshift into that environment, and then leave myself.
Mm.
So I'm designed to do that so that I can fully understand that part of the population and then do my rainbow unicorn thing and transmute that energy to open it up. To open it up, usually with my big heart and my sensitive feelings, then I kind of wake people up to realize that's hurtful. Like, that particular rule of conduct is very hurtful and it constricts us. And I'm too messy to fit into that box. I don't
Yeah.
fit into that box. So I'm designed to disrupt things with my sensitivity, with my feelingness. And for a long time, I didn't know that about myself. So I would always feel bad about myself that I made people feel uncomfortable. And then they would say, "Oh, you're just making me feel so uncomfortable because of all of you. Messy you showing up here makes me uncomfortable." And I didn't understand it for a while. That's my job. And years later, I was on my path of, like, we're talking about this shamanic path that I follow. Years later, I was doing a meditation in the tub to a shamanic drum journey by Sandra Ingerman. It's a beautiful teacher and artist of meditations down into your underworld and your subconscious. And I had just finished one of them, and I was just lying there in the tub, and all of a sudden, in my mind's eye, not in real people, but like in my mind's eye, my eyes were closed. I saw this like telescope coming in closer and closer and closer, and then with this, and the end of it getting bigger and bigger and bigger until it's like right here. And then this Indian chief, like this Native American chief with the headdress and everything, is in the middle of the center of the circle, and he says to me, "Open the suns in their hearts." And then he goes away. I'm like, wait a second.
Wow.
What does that mean? And I've been trying to figure out what that means ever since. And that my current version of what that means is, yeah, when I feel things, when I'm like empathically connecting with another person, something about that connection allows that other person to feel their feelings for a second. And when they feel their actual feelings, they open up and they're
Mm.
like, "Oh my gosh, I think I need to look at this differently," or "I feel something I hadn't felt. My feelings were so repressed down deep inside of me, so shamed, so guarded, so, tunneled down deep inside, so neglected, so ostracized that I didn't even know I felt that way."
Very powerful. And so on your journey, I mean, it sounds like, Kerri, you sort of figured out what are the rules, how do I need to live in this society, and then you realize this is not fun, this isn't who I am. And right, psychotherapy, pills, all of that, trying to shut it down. You resisted that, and you stayed open, and it seems like curious to your true self, who you are as an empath, as a deep feeler. And so I'm wondering, as for people who are listening, if there's somewhere on that journey, and maybe haven't reached the place you have of just, it seems to me like just owning, this is who I am. I'm wondering how, for me, my life, I hit rock bottom when my husband was arrested, and that amazingly actually opened up more courage and power for me to do the work that I'm doing now. I was scared it was going to shut me down. So I'm curious what you would say for people who are listening, how they can find the strength when they're at rock bottom, or when they're at the journey where they are not trusting themselves, and they're trying to follow these rules and not be different and not be themselves.
Well, I would say that I had a very extreme experience that I actually do believe a lot of people are having today because of the couple years of the pandemic, and just because of all the changes that have happened in people's lives. That's a lot of change all at once. It can be very traumatic. And I was at a place where most of the change that was happening in my life and most of the trauma that was happening in my life was because I kept feeding into the drama, So I kept feeding the drama in my life and building it up with more stories week after week on a psychotherapist couch, right? Just like victim consciousness. And so I got myself backed into a corner, because when you tell a lot of stories about yourself that aren't pretty, you back yourself into a corner. And that's what I did. And I felt so bad about myself on the inside. And then I was having all these troubles with my spouse. And because I told you how we got started by playing and appearing to have a good time. So like, when things got real, it's like, what now? And I got into a place where I didn't want to be here anymore. And by now I have two small children that are preschool age and into elementary school. And I am so dark and dismal inside myself. And my little light just can't shine out of that tunnel of self-judgment and condemnation, that I just don't even want to be here anymore. And when I got to that place, I had to make a choice. It's like, all right, I'm going to leave my children motherless, option A, or option B, I'm going to live my life.
Wow. You mean motherless, like
I'm
contemplating
going to
suicide?
take myself out somehow.
Wow.
And get off this planet, because this planet is not friendly to me. So I don't want to be on this planet anymore. I want to go back from where I came from and go live there instead of being here with these humans, which are mean. And I want to go someplace else. And so luckily my mother's heart won out. I said, not going to do it to my children. I love my kids. They didn't do anything wrong to deserve that. And so I'm going to stay. And then that became the benchmark for me, because if I'm going to stay but I was willing to off myself, then how could I stay and still off myself to have a new me? Because if I was willing to die to get rid of the me I was being, then why not just stay alive and reinvent myself? And that became a whole life of like, wow, looking at every single thing that I identified as me and starting to say, do I want that? Do I want to keep that? Or do I want to release that? So what I ended up doing was meeting a bunch of teachers. Once I was ready for that, of course, the door opened and I met a bunch of teachers. And the teachers were largely shamanic teachers. And the first teacher I really worked with was a Toltec teacher who had studied with Don Miguel Ruiz. And the Toltec teachings, I told you I was an artist, I was actually like making paintings and things like that. So when I went to her workshop and she said, the Toltec believe you can be the artist of your whole life, I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. I want to be the artist of my whole life. I want to curate my life so that I can have the me I want to be, and I can have the life I want to have. And then they said this law of attraction thing, and I was like, I knew that was real. I knew that was real. And somebody knew about it. And I found my people. I found the people like me that had already started cluing in that this conformity reality thing, this consensus reality thing didn't work very well. And for people like me and people like them. And so I started following, and I was like, well, how do I do this thing? How do I reinvent myself? And that was really my first set of teachings I put out in the world.
Which is so interesting that like when you first experienced, I don't know first, but in this story, like first experienced that law of attraction and brought it home to your husband, he's like, you're ridiculous. You're crazy.
Insane.
Yeah. That wasn't your people. He wasn't seeing you and allowing you to really be the artist of your whole life.
No, as a matter of fact, he's quite proud now because he's remarried, and he's like, she's not an artist, and I'm so thankful. So, he's just not comfortable in the deep watery realms that I occupy with things like emotions and, discomfort and unease and, and the fancy ideas like I can reinvent myself and my whole life. All of that is just not he doesn't know. He likes where he's at, and that's fine. There's no judgment there. People can like where they are. But, sometimes opposites come together, right? And this was definitely the case. We're like extreme opposites. And we came together, and in some way we refined each other. We opened each other to new potentials. And then it kind of reached a place where we didn't have the tools to manage the torque, like that's a lot of torque. And so the best solution was to end that relationship and move forward. And for me to find communities of other rainbow sheep where I could actually learn, right, to how to be this artist of my dream of life and how to create the self I wanted to be, because that was the most important part. I wanted to be the self I wanted to be. Yeah. And I'm still in that refinement process. I still find things where the other day I had my younger son actually is back from college, and he's really, really good at understanding people. And sometimes I feel like I still struggle to connect the dots on like, I'm just standing on my soapbox talking in the middle of Boston Commons and nobody's listening. I was just giving this metaphor from Amanda Palmer's book that I just read, The Art of Asking. And so I asked my son, I said, you're really good at understanding vast groups of people. He's like the only one that's been able to handle the torque in our family and be communicating with everybody. And I said, please take a look at this email. And he read the email that I was going to send to my audience, and he said, don't send that. I said, why? What did I do? And he says, it sounds pathetic, Mom. Stop that. Pick yourself up off the curb. Wow. You're fine. You're beautiful. They want to be helped by you. They don't want to hear your pain in your heart that they're not listening. Stop.
Wow.
And I was so grateful to my son. And I was like, thank you so much for pointing that out to me, because that's a core pattern that's been going on my whole life of being here on this planet, where I didn't really feel welcomed. I didn't feel appreciated. I didn't feel understood. I felt the outsider. And that's the path of many, many people who are called into being like a shaman or a shamanic practitioner, a medicine person, is that you're sort of on the periphery of the tribe. You're not necessarily right in the mix of things. And that is a lonely position sometimes. You're sitting on the outside going, I don't feel like I belong to this thing, but I want to belong somewhere. And I feel really sad that I'm not in the mix of things going on in the town square. I'm on the outside.
And it's one of the reasons I was drawn to you and wanted to bring you on to share your message with our Thoughtfully Fit fans, is because you had the courage to be awake and aware enough to recognize that things weren't working. And then the strength to be able to consciously make a tough choice. I mean, you that sentence, like I could leave my son's fatherless, or I could choose to live. That's a powerful choice. And so I'm wondering if you can share insights on your journey. Like, to me, you took 100% responsibility. You said that narrative of saying I could be a victim, or I can embrace and be responsible for my life and where I'm going. How did you How did you access that?
It's tough, right? Because the victim consciousness wants to blame it on everybody else.
Yep.
And years ago, I did. I mean, I did. I was on couches, on psychotherapist couches, blaming all of my problems on life circumstances or the person that drove by me in the freeway as the perfect car and everything. And gosh, they took up the resource because it's a zero-sum game and there's just none left. Like all of that, and so I said years later, I've since have found tools that help me to understand my life's curriculum myself, what I'm here to experience and do and be. That has helped me more than anything. But before I could find those tools, I had to decide to take responsibility. So that moment where I said, I am going to live. I am going to stay here. I am going to learn to love myself, or I am going to reinvent myself so that I do love myself. Maybe who I'm being right now, I don't really appreciate very much. I don't even appreciate it when I'm being a victim, right? So why would anybody else want to be around me if I'm being that way? So that's the moment of like, it's not someone else's fault. And believe me, for years in my marriage, he would blame things on me. He would point the finger at it's you, it's you, it's you. And I would go, no, it's you, it's you, it's you. And it was amazing how you could have two victims in the same marriage with opposite ideas about who the perpetrator was. Like incredible, right? Like, but that's the triangle of disempowerment. And I learned about the triangle as soon as I left psychotherapy. Now, this is the part that really I am committed to going out and talking to psychotherapists about this. Like, listen, here's a tool. This really helps explain things called the triangle of disempowerment. There's 3 roles: victim, rescuer, perpetrator. And if you're on any one of those corners, you're disempowered. It doesn't matter. If you're the rescuer, you're still disempowered. And I can explain how, but we're not going to do that right here. But it's like if you're at any one of those points, is not a good thing. So in order to be empowered, in order to be sovereign, you have to take 100% self-responsibility. It's nobody else's responsibility about your life. It's only yours. And it's not a heavy word, responsibility. Oh, I just can't take one more thing wrong with me. No, it's responsibility. I can respond to this. I can see something that makes me uncomfortable about myself. I can feel that discomfort. I can do that. I can feel what that feels like, and then I can make a choice. Do I want to live my life from that place? Or do I want to change my story? Because I am the artist of my own dream of life, and I can change my story. Just like I opened to my son, I said, come take a look at this email. What's my story reflecting to you right now? And he told me pathetic. And I was like, dang, I don't want to be pathetic. Okay, let me take another stab at this. So I felt that feeling in my body. Okay, what's at the core? What's way under in my subconscious, under. And I spent an entire day going deep in myself and feeling until I found the root, because shamanic practice is all about healing from the root, not from the symptoms, but deep under in the root. And I found it, I was like, oh, self-pity. Yay. I found self-pity. That's beautiful. I know what it is now. And I know where it comes from because I'm aware of past lives. And so I know, oh, that comes from my last life. I was on the Trail of Tears. And for those of your artists who like past lives, what? But you can actually, on this path, you can start to become aware of past lives. Like you're a soul, you're like longer than one lifetime. And you have all these experiences. There's amazing books about this out in the world. Psychotherapists who stumbled across this started helping their clients through impossible problems simply by realizing that they were a soul with multiple lifetimes. And some of that stuff bleeds over like into the next lifetime. And it doesn't make any sense with your current circumstance in this lifetime. But then when you give the picture of the long arc of many lifetimes, all of a sudden the thing makes sense. It's like, oh, so for me, I was like, yeah, I lost my entire culture. I lost my entire people. I lost my land. I lost all the people I loved. I lost the traditions I loved. I lost the place that we called home, that we connected. Of course I have self-pity. Of course I have self-pity. When I know it from that context, I can love myself. It's like, oh, sweet. I love you so much. Of course you have self-pity. Now let's clean it up, because kind of done with self-pity. You can't do anything about it. Can't change what happened. It's done. We see the effects of it all over the country today. The genocide. Can't change that. I can show up now. I can choose to pull my whole self forward into this moment with my open heart and be here.
Wow. And wow, this is so powerful. And so your healing journey took you down this spiritual path. I'm wondering if you can just share a little bit about your training as a shaman, and how did that teach you about inner strength, and what does shamanism bring for you to this journey that you're on?
Yeah, so shamanic healing actually, I would say one of the first things it did me was connect me with Mother Earth.
Mm.
So when we're disconnected, our bodies feel anxious. When we're not connected to Mother Earth, our bodies feel anxious. You see my teeth, how they're like slanted? That's from grinding my teeth at night because I was so anxious for so much of my
Wow.
life, and my jaw, like grinding, just out of stress, because I would put myself under so much stress to be perfect and liked and fit in and belong, that I actually damaged my teeth. And I'm not going to
Wow.
fix that because I want people to see that the rest of my life. This is what happens when you stress yourself out. This is what happens as a result. And so I was stressing myself out. So when I learned I could connect back, I could connect with Mother Earth. I could put my bare feet on her. I could
Mm.
sit on her. And not only could I just go on walks in nature, I always loved walks in nature. I always liked to be outside. When I was an artist, I painted outside. I loved being outside. I always felt better outside. But with shamanism, it comes to another level. You can actually open up magical doors of conscious interaction with nature when you walk this path. And I can't promise that you'll have an experience like this, but one experience I will share is that I was on a solo. I often study with different teachers because I like to learn. I'm all about learning now and discovery. And that's what shamanism is too, is learning and discovery and
Mm.
experiencing. That's the whole path. It's not like thinking about God, which gets really heavy quick because it's a book of law about how you're supposed to show up in order to be loved and accepted by God. And, that's tough. If you fail at that, there's dismal places they send you. And that whole model is just not, I don't like it. So I decided to reinvent that for myself. I don't like that model. I like a model where I'm loved no matter what. I like a model where no matter what I do, I am learning and I am loved and I'm supported, and my feet are going to be held to the fire a little bit to learn lessons that I took lifetimes to learn, but that's okay because I chose that. So I'm in a self-responsibility, right? 100% self-responsibility. So I went out into the woods studying with some of my teachers and on their land in New Mexico, and I was 3 days on my spot. And I'm a sage, so I like to talk and be with people, and I was alone. But I found a rock that was a stage. It was big enough to be a stage, and so I hopped up on it and I started performing, for the forest and singing a song. And I was calling in support. I was calling in the trees and the mountains and the animals, and I was just every name I could think. I was calling it all in. Come, and your help appreciated. Su ayuda, por favor. Come here now. And then I got this little giggle inside, this just deep little giggle inside of me, and I called in Hummingbird, and I was like, Hummingbird, come and see me. And out of nowhere, a hummingbird came and hovered in front of me, like literally maybe like 12 inches in front of my face,
Oh my gosh.
and stayed there. Like not just came, but like not just flew by, hovered in front of my third eye. And I couldn't, and nobody else was there to witness it.
I was just gonna say, and you're like, I want an audience. Somebody's got to witness this.
And look at this. And if I could have just captured it. And I stood there and I was like, oh, you came when I called. I finally got the words out. You came when I called, and it went, and then it flew away. And that was the only reason it happened. I tried to do it again and it didn't come. It doesn't work that way. The magic happens because you need a lesson. And you're so dense, thinking to myself, that you can't get it. So God's like, here, now. Every time you call for help, I'm right there.
Wow.
Here's my messenger.
And help might not look the way you think it should look.
No, and this is like, it's invisible, right? We're talking about that invisible space that my former husband was like, what are you talking about? That's insane. A lot of the world lives unaware of the invisible space. They live unaware of the ancestors that are beyond the veil, always helping us. They live unaware of helpful beings of light on the planet, and not only unaware, but a lot of times afraid of that because of conditioning and conformity reality that tells you to be afraid of that. But like, I've learned there's nothing to be afraid of. I've learned that even the deepest, darkest things that you think are fearful, they're not real. It's a chimera. It's just like it's only there if you believe in it. It's only there if you give it energy. And I choose not to give that energy. I choose to give energy to love. I choose to give energy to faith. I choose to give energy to trust. I choose to believe that, life is here for me, supporting me, giving me experiences. Yes, some of them are painful. Some of them hurt. Some of them tweak my ego in uncomfortable ways, like if nobody's listening. Lately, I've had this experience the last year or so where my audience dropped off. Like, I don't know, like Facebook stopped promoting my posts or something and I became invisible. Like one of those, Amanda Palmer wrote this great book, The Art of Asking, and she's like a statue, a human statue. And I feel like this human statue and I'm out there like on Facebook, like, here's inspiration. I want to inspire you. I want to help. I want to help. And like, it's just like dial tone. It's like, all right, I guess you're not interested. I don't know what to say, but I keep showing up and I keep doing my podcast and then I look and I'm like, oh, I'm like a top 5% podcast. That's cool. I don't even know how I got there because nobody ever tells me they like the episode. Nobody ever emails me back and says, hey, that was a great episode. I really like this. It's like invisible. I'm not, it's just like, where are you? You're out there. But I've learned to deal with invisible people because invisible guides help me all the time. They help. Ancestors help me all the time. So it's like humanity to me is at this point just like the ancestors. They're no more real than the ancestors because they don't interact, they don't engage, they're behind their phones.
And as you're talking, Kerri, I'm just so struck by like who you are today, and the strength that you have to say, isn't this interesting? I feel like a statue. I feel invisible. And I'm going to keep doing what I know I'm called to do. And I'm going to keep on making the next right choice and having the courage. And I'm curious if the current version of Kerri, if you had to give advice to your past self now, with love, what would you say? Like, how did you get, because I'm guessing that how you are handling those challenges in your life today is very different than how you would have it in the past when you were still married.
Yes. So I think here's one tip I would give is, does it open you or close you? When, trying to decide, I had so much self-doubt and I didn't trust myself because I so wanted the outcome to be acceptance and belonging from other people. And what I learned was, actually from one of my first teachers, was how to tap into my intuition about what was right for me. And when you tap into your intuition, I'm just going to do a little reveal just because why not? You're actually tapping into your soul. So your soul is always listening on the inside. It's always present. It's always there. Otherwise you wouldn't be alive. Your soul needs to activate your body in order to make it move and breathe and all that kind of stuff. So you would just be a lump of clay, as people are when their souls depart their bodies. Or if you've ever seen somebody pass away, like that, all that's left is this clay. That's it. It's not alive anymore. That's because the soul left the body. The soul is never, it's not the body. The person's not the body. The person is the soul that activates and enlivens the body. So your soul's inside of you all the time, always there, always listening, always present. And you're like your soul's greatest current creation. So you actually are exactly what your soul wants to experience. Exactly. Because souls don't make mistakes, unlike humans. Humans make all kinds of mistakes. Souls don't make mistakes. Souls are eternal. They are wise. They are just amazing beings. And we are all them too. When you're being a human, you lose access to that knowing of yourself in truth, that you are this eternal soul. And so you think no one's listening, but you're listening. You are listening to you. And the more you realize that and you open up to that, so the thing to do is to ask, does it open me or does it close me?
Wow.
So when I say mean things to myself, up until now, I still do once in a while, but I would say really mean things to myself, like, oh, you really screwed that up. Like I'd go do a presentation and I'd come home and I'd just berate myself, right? And then that would really close me because then my heart's like, ouch, ow, ow. ooh, that hurts. My heart is like, don't say mean things like that to me. It makes my heart hurt and my chest hurt. And I'm doing that to myself. But when I would say, oh, I'm in the process of learning how to connect, oh, that feels more open. It
Wow.
feels more potential, right? So I'm an empath, I'm a feeler. So I would talk to my empathic person self and anybody else listening. Don't go from your mind, because if you're going from your mind, you're going from your conditioning, the way you've been programmed by society to be. And if you're a rainbow sheep, that's never going to work for you. You're going to just run up against so many brick walls and it's never going to work. And you're going to get frustrated and wonder why you can't do it right, because you're doing the wrong thing. That's why you can't do it right. You're not meant to do that thing. And if you keep trying to do that thing, you're going to keep slamming yourself against a brick wall that is going to cause your teeth to look like this. And so stop and just be you,
My
because how
version of
you are
that,
is
I have these
perfect.
2 lines right here that are like worn
So,
in from making this face. And my daughters are always like, Mom, relax, relax. So the lines disappear, then I'm more at peace.
oh my gosh, like this. Yeah, I'll say also get some agua florida. I mean, anybody who really wants to follow this path, agua florida is beautiful. Don't get the kind from New York, because anybody listening from New York, I love you, but seriously, um, the blue water is awful. It's just as harsh and closed as New York, and I love you people too, but seriously, Peru, now, on the other hand, my beautiful, graceful, I love Peru. Because why? Because they're heart open. It's all about the heart. It's all about love. It's all about community. It's all about connection. It's all about the mountains are, the hills are alive, like that. Like, it really is true. The hills are alive, in Peru, they know that. And so there is based in these really beautiful flowers, and you get this agua florida bottle, and the native people, what they do is they douse themselves in that. They put prayers in it. Please help me think less. Yay. And then they go because they know this is a problem. It is. And we're in the West, we're so here. And we forget that there's life under the chin.
Wow. Oh, I feel like, Kerri, I could just stay and talk to you
I love this.
for the
Yeah.
next 8 hours. And I want to, as we always do, just ground this in the thoughtfully fit core. And in my mind, the beauty of what you're bringing is to pause in the moment, to think, where is my soul? Where am I connecting? Am I opening or am I closing? Is this experience opening to me or closing to me? And then act and consciously choose and take 100% response ability, like respond consciously on how you're going to move forward with whatever it is that life is bringing you, being driven and tapped by your soul and your inner guidance.
Absolutely. I love your book, by the way. I read most of it last night, and it's excellent. And yeah, it's a system, and the system works. I mean, all those things that you talk about in your book, I had to stumble through those lessons on my own. You put it in a nice framework. So, I mean, it's like a leg up for anybody who just wants to dive in and not have to figure out all the steps themselves.
That means so much to me that you read it and that you enjoyed it. Thank you.
Good.
So let me ask you, if people want more, like I want more, where can we get more of you?
Well, let's say my website, kerrihummingbird.com, Kerri, hummingbird.com. And, what I learned on my journey is that sometimes you can't work it out with your mind, right? Sometimes, no matter how hard you work from your mind to solve a problem, it just won't solve, or you just keep running up against it again and again and again and again. And that's because some of these things are energy. Some things are energetic. Some things are from your soul to resolve. Some things the soul can heal, but you will never be able to heal as the personality. So when you bring your soul into something, you actually you can create miracles in your life. So that's what I do. I help people bring their soul into things. And I do it through classes. I do it through learning about the 4 directions on Mother Earth, which are for everybody, no matter what religion you have. Cool. That's a mental sort of thing. Their body and your heart is connected to earth, so you can learn about how to be connected to earth too. It's not separate. They're together. And I also do healings. So I love healing work. I step into the hollow bone and I let go of myself and my identity, because I'm practiced at letting go of my identity, right? I did it years ago, and I said I might as well just live and let go of my identity.
Wow.
And I just step in on your behalf, and I shapeshift, and I use all my little shapeshifter tools to feel what you're feeling and sympathize and empathize, and then clear the energy. And
And is some of that
yeah.
can be done virtually, or do we have to
Oh
go to
yeah.
Austin to work with you?
No, it's you enter my magic realm where you
Oh,
realize it's like Alice in Wonderland, and there is no time and space, and things could be big or small, and it's a soul space. It's a
wow.
miracle space.
Wow. What a gift that you are bringing to the world to share your story and your transformation and your growth and how you have come to embrace your inner unicorn and your rainbow sheep. And I know for me, I'm looking at this in a way I haven't before this morning about my soul. And I thank you very much for giving that gift to us and for joining us today, this morning, Kerri. It's very, very powerful.
And thank you all for taking the flower. And when you read Amanda's book, you'll know what that means.
Oh, beautiful. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us. Happy Thoughtfully Fit Thursday. Put in the comments what sparked for you. What Kerri said that you are having a shift, a soul shifting moment, and that's sparking you at the core. Have a great week, everybody. Take care.